All right. I think I want to start with a statement. Not with a hot take, but a statement. So, especially, I mean, if you've been watching the podcast this year, you'll know where I'm coming from. You'll have seen this coming. You'll probably think, well, I thought this was already the case. And maybe
Hmm.
even a bit so last year. But especially after the weekend, I just want to lay down this statement. The reason I watch basketball, the person that got me into basketball is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is my favorite NBA player of all time. Chris Paul is a major reason that I'm a Clippers fan. Really kind of, defined the era of the Lob City era, you know, making me a Clippers fan, such a fun and exciting team to watch. Was my favorite player in the league for a long period of time. Chris Paul's now 37. We're really seeing him towards the end of his career. Obviously, this past weekend, his past two games, game six, game seven, were not the greatest for Chris Paul.
Has two.
Yeah. But now I would like to, kind of put the stake in the ground of my current favorite player in the league, the guy that I'm going to ride with the next 10 years as my favorite player in the league. And it should be no surprise, former Duke Blue Devil, Jason Tatum.
Oh, okay.
I was mouthing that off that whole
Jason,
time. I'm like, Tatum, Tatum.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just like we've been talking about it, top five in the league right now. Like he's just so impressive. Just ran through KD, just ran through Giannis.
Oh,
You know,
don't say ran through. Back it
well,
up.
I
Don't say
mean,
ran through,
I
buddy.
mean, Giannis. They
Yeah.
really you could really see in that game six, game seven that they missed Chris Middleton. I mean, Giannis did great on the boards, but by game
But
seven he was tired, and
he
you could
was
tell.
tired,
You could
yes, but
tell
again, he's tired because of the effort he put in. You can't say ran.
exactly.
I would say they maybe strolled through
Oh, Giannis
Milwaukee.
is still the best player in the league. Giannis is still the best
Strolled.
player in the league.
Like if they had Middleton, I don't think Boston would have won that series.
Correct. I agree. I agree.
But I will say ran through Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie. Easy
Hmm.
dubs all
Yeah.
day.
Well, a sweep. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
clearly.
So.
And that was a team that you took, and you took
Hmm.
the Bucks. And now I'm interested because we're gonna get into this episode and we're gonna talk about our series predictions. And you've counted the Celtics out twice, and I'm interested to see what you say
I'm
for
counting them out
Boston
again.
versus Miami. We'll get into that.
Curse.
Welcome to the Lob It Up Podcast. We are your hosts, Tobias, Chris, and Sivash. And with that being that early intro, Chris, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm not too bad, man. I'm not too bad. You know, sun's not really shining. It's a little bit overcast today, but we
Weatherman.
move, brother. How's everybody else?
I'm good. I'll speak for
Good.
everybody else. I'm doing good. Just
Yeah.
chilling, Well, I'm excited for this next round. We're gonna get into some takes, but it's been a fun few days on NBA Twitter, especially yesterday.
Yeah,
With some NBA players going on some shows and having some conversations. We're
and
just
it's
gonna
funny
leave it
because
at
you
that.
said let's keep the conversation with the certain player to a minimum. I didn't. I wasn't even going to bring him up, to be honest with you. I mean, he kind of tired the whole narrative. There's everything that we would talk about for this podcast. He kind of covered, so it's like we don't even need to bring up what he talked about. We'll just talk about it
We're
ourselves.
gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it.
Yeah. Um. Obviously, we were hanging out this past weekend. That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool watching the Suns get slapped by 40. Definitely interesting. So I think with that, I don't know if you guys have takes of the week, but I think I have my take of the week, and it does involve the Phoenix Suns. So if you don't mind, I'll get started.
I say we just
Go
get
ahead.
started with the series that we're going to talk about, and we just because my take of the week is going to be involved in one of the past matchups, so I think we can just give it as part of our review of the series.
Sure. Okay. Let's start in the West, and let me
Yeah.
just give you my take because it has more to do with the off season. And Chris, you and I were watching on Monday. You and I were watching some of this,
Hmm.
stuff that happened with Patrick Beverly going on ESPN and whatnot. And We were watching Skip and Shannon, and we were talking about we were talking
Yeah.
about future free agent DeAndre Ayton.
Yep.
And I think it was Lil Wayne that had said, because he was courtside, that DeAndre Ayton I don't think played at all in the fourth quarter. They
That's
benched
correct.
him, and I said to Chris before we even watched it, I said I wouldn't be surprised if the reason that he didn't play in the fourth quarter was because that he just quit, that he just gave up on his team. Look, you didn't give me a contract at the start of the season. You decided not to sign me. You decided to give $9 million to Landry Shamet. Fuck you guys, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And what did they talk about? It was a conversation, an argument between Monty Williams, the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, and DeAndre Ayton. And Monty Williams said, "You quit on us, man. You actually quit on us. When we needed you, you quit on us."
Yeah.
I mean, even in the press conference afterwards, they went and said, "What happened with DeAndre Ayton? Why didn't you play him?" He said it's internal. Well, I mean, if it was something to do with play, they would have talked about it. To just kind
Mm-hmm.
of give that skim over like it's internal, little sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that happened, my first takeaway was that something must have been going on with Robert Sarver. I thought that when they said it's internal, I took it as, with the history it's had, something must have happened. I mean, we were watching the game. Nobody expected them to get slapped like that. So,
Yeah.
with everything that happened, that was going to be my take about the series, is something happened before Game 7 that threw them off, and they just lost like that. And again, my first takeaway from that it's internal thing was that something in the back office, but then Devin Booker was saying how he wants DeAndre Ayton to be happy and he wants him to get the money. So again, with that and everything else that came out since, I think there's some issues going on with what he's doing and how he feels about getting paid this offseason.
Yeah, and so to clarify, my take is he will not be returned to Phoenix Suns next year. I think completely he's on a different team. I think just the way that went down at the end of their season, I think, like you mentioned, Sarver's lack of wanting to pay, this big man that they drafted first overall in a draft that Luka was also in. I don't see him. I don't see him on that Phoenix Suns next year. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Chris Paul. Maybe they get rid of both of them. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the Phoenix Suns do because I think the West is going to get better. The Phoenix Suns are not going to be a 65 win team next year. I can guarantee you that. The Lakers will be better. The Clippers will be better.
That's
Bless you. Who knows what happens with some of those, those deeper teams like the Pelicans, the Timberwolves. So it'll be interesting. But with that, I guess we'll start with that Phoenix Suns and Dallas Mavericks series. Chris, what was your kind of takeaway from that? What did you see when you were watching that series? Because you, out of the three of us, you were the one that picked Dallas to move on.
I did.
He's like, yeah,
in hookah,
pop my
we believe.
collar, yeah.
I did. I mean, I should have actually bought a hookah for today and just put it on screen. All summer 2020. It's hookah every day.
At 11 in the morning.
If the Mavericks win, I'm going out and I'm buying a hookah. I don't care. And every day I'll be like, hookah, I'll light up. But what I watched was basically a massacre, brother. That was just terrible basketball. From a 64 win team.
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna have Luka score 27 points, which was the exact same amount of points your entire team scored in that first half?
First half, yeah.
Brother, pathetic.
Yeah.
Pathetic. So like, I don't even know what's going on with those boys over there. And like you're saying, if they're thinking of getting rid of, DeAndre and Chris Paul, it's like, I think we've often talked that like Chris Paul was one of the reasons that they were elevated to the level that they've been at. So I think you get rid of Chris Paul, maybe they fall back short again, and Devin Booker's looking like he's kind of stuck in this can't win system. I don't know.
Chris Paul has a similar career that the Toronto Maple Leafs have had the past 20 years.
Oh God. Yeah, exactly. It gives you hope every time, and then
exactly.
Something comes up, like them saying like, "Oh, he was dealing with a quad issue," or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yo, come on.
How convenient is that?
Yeah,
That's super convenient.
and let me just say, okay, you're dealing with a quad issue. Okay, so why were you playing in the fourth quarter when you were getting blown out?
Exactly.
Why were you playing?
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense to me. There's always an excuse, and I'm only gonna bring his. We're not gonna talk about what he was saying, the slander that he was putting on ESPN network the other day. But Pat Bev tweeted at that half, at that game, he said, "Pay real close attention who gets injured at the end of the game. Pay real close attention to what reports come out about injuries after this game." I mean, he wasn't wrong. And sure, I mean, some people have pointed out that it looked like CP was maybe favoring his thigh or something like that. But okay, that's fine. But again, I go back to the question: why were you playing in the fourth quarter of a
Yeah.
game you were getting blown out of when the
Exactly.
starters for the Dallas Mavericks were sitting on the bench? I don't understand that. And again, Chris Paul was whatever my relationship with Chris Paul is now. He was my guy for a long time, but it's like, yo, we can't be using excuses like this, bro. Not
Yep.
valid. Steve Ash, what was your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, I kind of gave my takeaway from the end of the series about how they said it was internal and everything.
Mhm.
I do want to bring up the remarks of Patrick Beverley on the network ESPN yesterday. They had him on for, I think, 7 hours since like 5 in the
Yeah, I
morning.
think around there, yeah.
Yeah, they
Put
had
in a
him
show.
doing every little segment, just giving him all the lights that he needs. And, they even asked him about LeBron at some point. They're like, would you join the Lakers? He's like, yeah, I would. It's like, dude, what are you guys doing?
That's funny, yeah.
But when he was talking about Chris Paul, his remarks, of course, were really focused on Chris Paul is a defensive liability. Nobody's scared of him. And I think that was the most part. I think he brought up a conversation with Paul George.
Yeah, which I'm not a big fan of that. Like, if private conversations are private conversations, then leave them as private conversations. But whatever.
Yeah. My takeaway from that whole series is, look, Chris Paul is 37 years old. And, I'm not going to bring this up like LeBron. Like, he's 37.
I was going to say, he's 37.
I'm not doing that.
37.
I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is we got to, level our expectations. Pat Bev was talking about how Chris Paul is a defensive liability. What 37-year-old is not? Let's be honest. LeBron is not the greatest defender on the court now. Like, some people, Luka was hunting for him last time they played in the regular season.
That's true.
So I just think probably my biggest takeaway is they have to prove themselves again. This might have been their biggest chance, and they might not be able to come back to this spot again. Nobody had them coming back to win this many games and be able to be the title favorites this season, but of course they proved us all wrong. I think it's going to be hard for him to do it again. I don't know. And again, with DeAndre Ayton, all that situation, even if he comes back, even if all is well, I just don't know how it's going to look like next season.
Well, and using the Chris Panett logic from a couple episodes ago, Devin Booker's the main guy there. Okay, that's fine. For the most part, he's usually consistent. Last game, he clearly was not. And then DeAndre Ayton, the second guy, little inconsistent, especially on the boards for being a 7-foot big man. I don't know what you're doing all the time. Mikal Bridges, you gave Chris Paul the 4 slot. Okay, Mikal Bridges, that guy's either going to give you 2 points or he's going to give you 25 points. Defensive Player of the Year candidate, sure, but I mean, if he's your third option, I need you to drop some buckets. And these guys they went ghost. And I think you're totally right, Steve Ash. I think they had like a 2, maybe 3-year window with this group. And it's like, again, the West this was a great year for them. I think that they were title favorites. If you walked into the playoffs at the start of April or the middle of April, and you said pick one team to be in the NBA Finals, you would have picked the Phoenix Suns. You weren't picking gold. Like, hardly anyone is picking Golden State. I mean, there was flaws near the end. That's why I kind of led towards Golden State. There was flaws with Phoenix, but a lot of people had Phoenix winning the title, right? They were there last year, blah blah blah. But I don't know when it mattered. And again, I don't want to put this on Monty Williams. It's unfortunate, but it's a story that Chris Paul's faced his whole career. But now this is the second year in a row Monty Williams' squad has been up 2-0 and blown a 2-0 lead to get themselves eliminated from the playoffs. Obviously, last year was in the NBA Finals. Same thing this year. 2-0 lead. What happened?
Blew it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but last year they lost 4 straight, and
That's true.
at the same time, I can't blame them losing. I mean, listen, that Giannis, if you were watching that series, they were looking tough. So
yeah,
in this series, of course, they didn't lose 4 straight, but still, for them to lose 2, win 1, and then lose 2 again, that's the tough part.
yeah, and in Game 7 at home, like that's
they were down by 50 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think they said like the worst it got was 46.
Was
46.
it?
Basically 50 though.
Yeah, come on, Sivash, give him credit.
I know.
46.
I'm sorry. I should have
46
rounded
points.
up.
Come on, brother. Don't round up to 50. They weren't that bad.
I was trying to get him past. Come on, 50.
And I kind of feel bad for, the last point, we'll touch on this before we jump to the next series in that Western Conference. I kind of feel bad for the organization of Phoenix. Think about some of the great teams that they've had there. Charles Barkley's Suns, they went to the finals, lost against Jordan. What was the best that the Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire Suns did? They didn't go to the finals, did they?
I think it was semi-conference finals against the Spurs.
But a solid squad, right?
Yep.
Good, solid squad. And now this team, again, finals, lost. It's just tough for Phoenix fans. Okay, so, we'll jump over to this other matchup in the West. A veteran squad in the Golden State Warriors versus a young and up-and-coming squad, and they'll be around for a long time, in the Memphis Grizzlies. Siavash, I'll let you start with this series. What did you see? Give us your breakdown. And the same thing I asked you in our last recap of the round episode. What does Memphis need to do to put themselves in a better position next year?
They just need to bring this team back. This team is set up to be the top seed in the West for the next 5 years. If they don't do anything outside the ordinary, they just got to bring everybody back. Of course, right now they're looking good because the salaries is working out. They got a lot of young guys on their teams. I just think if they're able to just bring this team back, they'll be a top seed in the West for the next 5 years, and they don't have anything to worry about. They're very reminiscent of the Warriors back in 2014 when they lost to the Clippers. And then next year they came back and they were the first seed with Steph winning MVP. That comparison, I think, is valid. We're going to see this team for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing that I noticed too, and I'm a fan of his, but getting some offense out of Jaren Jackson Jr. Solid defensive guy. What's that?
Don't
foul as much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that can be recognized as a DPOY candidate. Guy gets like 3 blocks a game. But I mean, he was, chucking up like terrible shots in that final game. So I think if he can, be a little more consistent on offense, yeah, that's another threat for them. That's very scary. Chris?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with C there. This Grizzlies squad is set to essentially just be great for the next little while, as long as they don't make any major changes, bring everybody back, and people can stay healthy. Because I think they probably could have gotten another 2 games, maybe even it been a different series if Ja wasn't out with his knee injury, and then Dillon Brooks obviously wasn't suspended for what was it, 1 or 2 games?
Yeah, 1. Well, 1, but he was out for that game that he was.
Yeah, so you got they're right at the start of 1, so they lost him for 2 games basically. So I think it could have been a different series, and honestly, again, I could have still seen that upset.
Sure. Well, upset. They were the higher seed, but I mean, the biggest problem that I had with that Grizzlies team, and again, this is their first year making the playoffs. It's all a learning curve. But the biggest issue I had was Ja Morant, and it's just a youth thing. It's just he's got to age and get experience. He played hero ball way too much. He tried to take over. He tried to be the guy. There was times down the stretch where he wouldn't pass. He would just try to drive the lane, go to the hoop and drain a bucket, and it would miss or he'd lose the ball or whatever. I don't know. And again, he's a great talent. He'll learn. It's his first year in the playoffs, um, but or actually competing in the playoffs, I should say. But that's one thing I noticed, and that's I think why they played really well without him during the season in that stretch.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like the games he was in, they played like noticeably like better, right? Like that first game they lost was a 1 point game. Second game they ended up winning. He drops 47 points on them, and then I guess that like third game was just kind of like oof, that was like a blowout. You're back at Golden State.
Yeah.
What game did he get injured? Was it game 4?
I think it was game 3.
I think it might have been 4 because game 5 they didn't say anything until the game, and then he wasn't there, and then game 6, he was on the sideline. But in general, like you look at game 5 and 6, game 5 they blew out the Warriors by 40 points, and then game 6 they did lose, but they lost by a few points. So I think it's valid to say they played better without him.
Because I think because he wasn't there for it looks like game 3. Sorry, was it game 3? No, game 4. Yeah, game 4 wasn't there.
Yeah.
Didn't play.
Steve Ash, what about you, man? What did you see in this series? Like, I mean, Golden State, from what I remember watching, Golden State was so good, but there was also, and this is what concerns me when they're going to match up against Dallas, and we'll talk about that later on in the video, but this is what concerns me, that sometimes the shooting was very inconsistent by even the big guys. So what was your breakdown on this series?
Yeah, as I gave my breakdown a few minutes ago, I think the Grizzlies are going to be good. But when it comes to the Warriors, I think we're going to get to that a little bit later. I definitely have some remarks about their defense and their shooting.
Yeah. Chris, anything else to touch on there? I thought I lobbed it up to Chris first. That's why I
No, you good.
tossed it over to you. But go ahead,
But
Chris.
no, like nothing too much to add. Also, too, to touch on when I said upset before.
Yeah.
I say upset not as in because like obviously like Memphis was the higher seed. It's upset as in Golden State's the more experienced team. How many championships have they won? They won the back to back. Like it's expected that squad is going far and is going deep.
Yeah.
Like every year.
You're
so
right.
That's what I meant in like in terms of like upset.
I got you. Okay, so let's slide over to the East. And let's talk about Jimmy and his rivalry with another guy with a great name, Tobias Harris. But I also think that I was listening to, I think it was the Bill Simmons podcast, and they were saying, he shouldn't be mad at Tobias Harris. He should be mad at Al Horford, really, because they took the salary, the money that they were going to give to Jimmy and gave it to Al, not to Tobias. And obviously Al's not even there anymore. He's with Boston. But yeah, Chris, give us the breakdown on that. I want to hear, because I know Seabash is a huge Jimmy fan, but I want to hear your breakdown first on that series, Chris.
Honestly, man, like I knew it was gonna be like a fairly like tough series. For like the 76ers, obviously they didn't have Joel. Like that first game?
2 games.
The first two.
Yeah.
Yeah, first 2 games. Yeah, they didn't have him in the first 2 games. But even still, like Miami, the way they set up like their schemes and the plays and things they run, it's very similar to Toronto. And then you saw Toronto, push back a little bit with the 76ers. So obviously I felt like it was going to kind of go like the same way for like the Sixers. There's going to be some pushback, only just Miami was just going to take that like commanding lead at like some point. But, we did see the series got to like a 2-2 tie, and I was kind of getting a little sweaty for Miami, and I was like, but our boy Jimmy Buckets comes through, and there's solid role playing too from other people. Tyler Hero coming out, even Oladipo doing the things he should have been doing, Bam doing the things he should be doing, and of course good old reliable PJ Tucker, just sending him out there and saying, hey, just do your thing, man. And you can trust him to do his thing. But yeah, honestly, I did expect like Miami to beat Philly. And didn't they lose the same day or something like that? That Kawhi hit the shot
Yep.
in
They
Joel's face.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was the same day they got eliminated 3 years ago by the Kawhi shot.
Wow. Yeah.
it's fate, man.
Yeah, they got eliminated by Kyle Lowry team twice.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kyle Lowry's not looking too hot there either, so that's more so to do with his injury. But we'll talk about in this next round. But I don't know if Kyle Lowry's not there. Kyle Lowry's not 100%. I'm a little worried for that Miami Heat squad. But Sivash, give us your breakdown. Talk about your guy, Jimmy Buckets, and that matchup that was in Philly.
Yeah, at the beginning of the introduction for this series, you mentioned that when Jimmy was leaving the arena, or I guess leaving the floor to go back to the locker room, he was saying how they picked Tobias Harris over him. I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and I did hear that part as well.
Okay.
And in my opinion, that is a terrible take for them to say that they picked Al Horford over Tobias or over Jimmy. The reason for that is they had two guys to bring back that offseason. They didn't bring back, they brought back Tobias right away. But if anybody was following that whole situation, Jimmy was saying that there was talks in the background that they would bring him back, but there was like a little thing like, hey, will we be able to control him? Is he going to be controlled? And he was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm a grown man.
He's like, well, I don't want to be controlled. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
what do you mean? Like, I'm not doing, and his exact words, I'm not doing some bullshit. I'm literally just playing basketball. I'm not out on the street, like, I'm not causing trouble to your organization. Why would you want to control me?
Mm-hmm.
So I get where Jimmy's coming from, where he's like, oh, you were going to bring this guy back right away. Hey, no problem. Take this money. You're not even an all-star, but here, take this money.
Yeah,
but Jimmy Butler, who's a top 15 player, hey, can we control this guy? Because he had a little thing going on with our coach, Brett Brown, who's not even there anymore.
Yeah.
And then you look at the other side. Jimmy was on Team Joel right away. Him and Joel boys. But him and Ben didn't really hit it off. And, I don't know what was going on there. I'm not going to say it was because Ben wasn't trying to do the work or whatever. But it just felt like Jimmy was trying to be there with Joel. But when it came to it, he was like, hey, man, I'm just going to go to Miami, do my thing. And that was going to be my takeaway from the series. Is that I just, as somebody who was watching that series, who's a Jimmy guy, I just remember I was watching the Game 7 where they got eliminated by the shot.
Yeah.
I really wish that team didn't get eliminated by the shot, man. I think they would have had a solid chance to win the championship. I think they would have ran through the Bucks the next series. They had Jimmy, Ben, Joel. They stopped the Bucks a few times in that regular season, and then in the playoffs, I don't see how the Warriors were going to guard those guys.
Well, I mean, you think back to that squad too, and you look at them on paper. You're like, how did this team not hit the expectations that were put on them?
Yeah,
I don't know, but again, like they talked in the Bill Simmons podcast, there's maybe some issues with growth, with youth, with desire to work, and obviously Jimmy is a nut when it comes to basketball. You don't find that a lot in the league. Guys that have that, I'm not saying he's on the same tier as this guy, but have that insane kind of Kobe mentality where it's like, I'm gonna work my ass off in the gym all the time. Jimmy's one of those guys, and sometimes those aren't the likable people to be around, but they'll help you win. They'll help you win, and we saw that. That's one thing I take away from that series was, Jimmy carried that team. I don't think Bam has been up to the level that he should be. Jimmy is literally telling everyone to jump on his back and ride with him. So I mean, dropping 40 bombs or 35 pieces and putting up almost triple doubles. Like Jimmy's going nuts. So that will be another thing. A lot of these guys, I'm thinking this playoffs are putting some miles on them. Luckily, they haven't faced the toughest competition in the playoffs, going against the Hawks and then the Philadelphia 76ers. But there's a couple guys here that have some miles on them. But let's talk about the miles. You mentioned PJ Tucker, Chris, and now he used to be with the Bucks. Now he's with the Heat, and I really think that that's a piece that they missed. The Milwaukee Bucks. If PJ Tucker was there, of course he's not Chris Middleton, but another one of those role players that can play D, can hit those corner threes when you need them. Could have been useful in this series. What was your takeaway from this series? You being a Giannis guy, you being a Bucks guy, and taking the Bucks over the Celtics. What was your takeaway from this series?
Honestly, like when we touched on it like a little bit before, when you're like, oh, the Celtics ran through the Bucks. Yes, there was like a few games where like the score, especially this last game, like the score got away from them. But that, as you could see, like Giannis is tired, bro. Like the guy was doing
missing
his
layups.
thing. Yeah, missing, and he even said that in like an interview after. He's like, I was missing some gimme buckets that I would like normally hit. But that's basketball. You get in there and you work, and I think he also set like an NBA record or something yesterday, or like during the playoffs for hitting like 200 points, 100 rebounds, 50 assists, something like that. I have to look up like the exact thing what it was, but apparently he set a record during that series. Because again, the guy was doing everything he could. Like that last game, he dropped 25 points, 20 rebounds, 9 assists, bro. Almost a triple double. Like, what more do you want from Giannis?
100%.
Yeah,
The best player in the league for a reason, and like you said, like if Middleton's there, we're having a different conversation.
A whole different conversation.
I really
you could rely on Middleton for 20 points, at least like 8 boards, some assists here and there. Take some of that brunt of the scoring off of Giannis, kind of free him up a bit.
And just the gravity of that player would open up the floor more. Like I'm gonna get to my part, but it's like, bro, like they just did not have the right shooting around him in that series.
Exactly.
Grayson Allen.
And I forget who. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say Ted Cruz Jr. did not make his shots, and I just don't know why they would keep him moving forward.
And I don't know who said it, but it was a former NBA player who's talking on ESPN or Fox or whatever. But they were talking about the Bucks' defensive play and how they decide to guard the opposing team, and how they really just kind of let the 3-point shooters hit their shots, and that was an Achilles heel for them all series. Grant Williams, I think, hit 7 or 8 threes in the final game. Like, you cannot be letting people spray that much and hitting their shots. So that ended up being their I think the dagger in their case for the championship this year.
Yeah, the Bucks have been having that defensive mindset for the past, I think, few years since Mike Budenholzer got in there, and they just always are willing to give up the 3 before they will give up an open basket. My takeaway from the go ahead.
Do you remember, because Bud used to be in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Do you remember, was the Atlanta system sort of the same?
I don't recall, I'll be honest. I did not watch a lot of Hawks basketball back then.
Yeah, fair enough. They were another one of those regular season hero teams, sort of similar to the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest, because even then, defensively, they did not have, I can't even say, DeMar Carroll might have been their best player on defense.
Carroll, yeah.
Because they had T, Corver, Carroll,
Horford,
Millsap, and Horford. Yeah, so I don't even remember if they had a guy off the bench, but yeah, to me, I just didn't watch him back then. I definitely would love to go back and see if he's changed his mindset, but of course, the basketball was different back then as well. 2015 was probably one of the first years we saw an uprise in the 3-point shooting that was noticeable, and I think they might have changed it since, but yeah. So my takeaway from this series is Giannis is the closest thing to LeBron we've seen. This guy, the number that Chris was bringing up, I don't remember the exact numbers, but yeah, in one series, he's had like 50 assists, 100 rebounds, like over 200 points, I think. That was a number, but listen, man, this guy just carried this team to Game 7. If you look at the way that they were playing, I don't even think, like, there was games that the Celtics lost, and I'm like, man, that's a bad loss on their end, and that's like a getaway win from the Bucks end. If the Celtics were losing by 30, you would have been like, okay, the Celtics definitely are losing. But they were losing by a few points here and there. The game 4, I think it was, or game 5, where Jrue Holiday had the snatch block on Marcus Smart. And Then they went to Game 6, and JT dropped 45 points, which is just insane. Yeah, I think my takeaway is just, man, nobody would have expected Giannis to take them to Game 7, but he just carried them, and that's some LeBron shit. I haven't seen anything like this since LeBron.
And I truly think if the Bucks won that series, the Bucks win the championship. I mean, we'll talk about it here in a second. I don't trust Miami. We're just talking about Giannis and carrying the team. I think Jimmy's doing the same thing in Miami. I don't feel confident about Bam. Just basically looking at the past 2 rounds, hasn't been the Bam that we saw the year that they made it to the finals. Tyler Hero, sure, coming off the bench has been, a good scorer for you. He'll grab you actually a decent amount of boards, a surprisingly amount of boards actually. But with Kyle Lowry not being 100%, we don't really know what's going on with him. Oladipo, okay, but again, unreliable. Duncan Robinson, unreliable. Just a lot of inconsistency on that team. And, I think whoever was coming out of that series, Boston or Milwaukee, was winning that series. And I truly think Milwaukee, being the powerhouse that they are with Giannis, was going to win the title. I don't know when Chris Middleton would have come back, but it would have been interesting to see him come back maybe in the finals had they made it.
Let's get to the next series.
Okay. So let's start and let's talk about our next round, our conference finals predictions. So we'll stay in the East. Stay with what we were just talking about. We got the 1 seed Miami Heat versus the 2 seed Boston Celtics. Chris, all playoffs long, you've been counting out this team.
Then I would say save your breath, save your sentences, save whatever you need to save. Put that towards living a longer life.
Okay.
And just know, I'm going with the Miami Heat.
Oh Lord. Okay. I think he just has this, disdain towards the Celtics.
I just can't be a Boston guy. Can't like Boston. The only team from Boston I like is New England Patriots. Probably the worst team from Boston to like. Or the most hated team in Boston.
Well, yeah, that are the Bruins. But go ahead.
Yeah, either or. But I'm not a hockey guy, so But yeah, I'm riding with the Miami Heat. I just want to see Boston lose, bro.
I mean, you might be waiting a while.
But it's tough. It's tough with Jason Tatum playing the way he's been playing. Like you said, watching this guy like Tatum. The way he's playing now, Tatum is definitely probably in that top 10 players, like right now. And
I think easily top 10. Easily.
Yeah, and then like I think what Pat Bev was saying, like you give that guy a championship, that easily thrusts him into like the top 5 kind of players.
I didn't hear that. Wow. I heard a lot of. There was too much Pat Bev conversation. Too much time he spent on it. There's a lot of stuff I missed.
But yeah, that was one of the things. I think it was him. No, it wasn't Pat Bev. It was some other guy. But yeah, it's just you give Tatum a championship, and that definitely thrusts him, because for a while there was like a lot of like who's the guy? Is it Jaylen Brown? Is it Tatum? Obviously, it's clearly been defined now as it's Tatum. Tatum is the guy, and Jaylen is a great number 2, second option. So, but as great as the man is, I need to see him out.
So it's more of a desire.
More of a desire. Prediction. It's more of a just again, like when you asked me in the last matchup of who am I thinking to win between Dallas and Phoenix, I just said, you know what? No rhyme or reason. I'm Dallas. I'm riding with my boy Hookah. Same thing, this one I'm gonna trust my gut, and I'm gonna ride with Jimmy Buckets, Kyle Lowry, Hero, those boys, that squad, and hopefully they turn it around.
So you think that Jimmy can win you 4 games? Because I'm telling you, I'm seeing what I've seen the past 2 rounds, and Jimmy's been carrying that team.
Jimmy, you know what? It's a new series. It's a different squad. Wow. Different things are gonna happen. So that's who I'm riding with. I'm riding with the Miami Heat.
This guy told me, like, "Are you sure, Jimmy?"
Stamp
I just want to,
stamp it right now.
I'm trying to give him a couple chances here, you know?
I don't
What?
need chances.
We don't
I'm
need no
trusting my
chances.
gut.
We're
Okay.
swinging for the
And I think
fences,
I already
baby.
know. I think I
Oh.
already know where Seabash is going because, you know, he might ride with his dog, ride with Jimmy. So go ahead, talk your shit. Talk your shit. Wait, hold on. Sorry, Chris. You said Miami, but you didn't give us a game prediction. How many games?
Oh, game prediction.
It was
Okay,
4.
I think Miami in
3.
Miami in 6. Miami in
3,
6.
this guy says. Miami in 6, okay.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
Seabash.
Listen. Yes, I'm a Jimmy fan.
Okay.
Yes, Boston is a shitty city. Not a city, actually. No. The fan base is just too extra. Let me rephrase because I'd love to go
Okay,
to
I was
Boston.
gonna say you're getting real close to Chris and his slander towards New York.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like Chris.
What do you mean?
I mean, let me say this.
I literally said facts. New York is just a dirtier Toronto.
Well, let me say
That's
this.
it.
If I had to pick between going to New York or Boston, I'm going to New York. I'm not going to Boston, bro. I don't have a reason to go
Yeah.
to Boston. But I'm not going to slander the city. I'm sure great people, just the fans are fucking assholes, whatever. Yeah, this is tough. Because here's my thought process. I haven't made my decision yet. Part of me wants to go
Sure.
and bet on the Celtics now that Chris has picked the opposing team with the curse that he has. So we'll see.
What curse?
It's 2 rounds now.
Dallas Mavericks are going.
Well, 2 rounds now. You picked against the Celtics and they've won. So
I don't. Yeah,
listen, bro. Starting to become a curse against
Not lying.
Boston.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my thought process. I think the Heat can definitely win it. They just have to get some offense outside of Jimmy. Because if Jimmy's the only offensive point, they're not going to be able to get through this. And again, they need some shooting. They need something outside of that. And on defense, they just need to make sure their guys who are defensive liabilities are not getting hunted to the ground. So guys like Tyler Herro, Duncan, Vincent, all these guys just got to not be terrible on defense, and then they'll be fine. With all of that considered, I might have to go with the Celtics in 7.
Nice. Welcome.
And I'm still like, I'm only saying 7 because I'm like, look, it's just going to be tough. I can see Heat going in 6. I can see Celtics going in 6. I just think it's going to be tough, and it's going to be an interesting series to watch. On the other side, I think Jimmy is just going to come out, and as he has every time he's been on the spot, he's going to perform. So that's why I'm going in 7. I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat win, though.
I completely agree with you, Seabash. I think Miami can win, but I think it depends on everybody else around Jimmy. I'm not worried about Jimmy. I think Jimmy will give you 25, 8, and 6. Yeah, I think he can consistently do that, and probably more points, to be honest with you. He's been a beast for them. He is their leader. Again, I think if Kyle Lowry is playing in this series and he's a fully healthy Kyle Lowry, then it's a lot scarier for Boston. But if it's a 70% Kyle Lowry, you're worse with an injured Kyle Lowry on the court than you are without Kyle Lowry on the court. Again, the consistency of not even their role players, just their secondary pieces in Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. Of course, you got Max Strus and Gabe Vincent showing up. What has Duncan Robinson shown you that you think, okay, yeah, let's put this guy in the court, he can actually put up points? I'm gonna go with a team that has the depth, has the versatility, and has the consistency. I've been high on the Celtics all season, even though they pissed me off in the middle of the season. I'm gonna ride with the 2 teams, and we'll get over to the West eventually. I'm gonna ride with the 2 teams that I've been picking since the beginning, and I'm going with the Boston Celtics. And I agree with you. I was tossed up between 6 or 7. But I think Miami can push it to 7. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 6. Either way, I think the Celtics, but I'll go Celtics in 7.
I'm going to give some pushback on the point about the depth for the Celtics. I think if you take away the top 2-3 guys from each team and you look at the roster, I think the Heat clearly have a better depth than the Celtics. You look at guys like Pritchard and Derek White. These guys have been inconsistent very much. So I
Sure.
think with the Heat, you got a guy coming off the bench like Victor Oladipo, and you got a guy like Dwayne Dedman, and these shooters that are coming off the bench. I have a hard time thinking that they're gonna not be as good as the Celtics depth.
That's why I give him credit to go 7. But again, I'm just thinking with guys like Grant Williams, I know Robert Williams is more of a starter, but Robert Williams, Daniel Tice, Al Horford, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart. You talked about Pritchard. Yeah, he definitely has been inconsistent. So was Derek White. But Pritchard went out in Game 7 and just splashed 4 threes at home. I know that they don't have home court advantage, but I just, I don't know. I'm just gonna ride with what I think is the better team. I'm worried about the mileage again. When I was talking about it, the mileage that was put on Jimmy. How long is that going to last? And when is Bam going to start to contribute a bit more? Even in terms of rebounds, I've been looking at Bam like, what are you doing? He had 3 rebounds in a game that Joel Embiid wasn't even in. I was like, what? How?
Yeah, but at the same time, like man, with their defensive rotation, sometimes Bam is guarding somebody at the perimeter, and then with that said, like Jimmy and PJ and all these other guys are still crashing forward. So I'm not too worried about the numbers. I would just watch a game and see how he's playing. And to be fair, yes, he hasn't been the best. I will say that. But I think it's gonna be interesting with the way that they're gonna play defensively against Jason Tatum and Al Horford and all those guys.
Yeah. Okay, so let's slide over to the West and let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks, another kind of similar series to Golden State and Memphis in terms of the veteran team in Golden State and a younger team in Dallas. And I'll just splash us in because I gotta give my team a little bit of love, and it's just nice to see that for the first time in Luka's career, when the Clippers don't make the playoffs, he actually advances. But
Okay,
no,
buddy.
but no, Luka's so good. I mean, you made a comparison earlier in this episode about Giannis being the closest thing we've seen to LeBron. Man, Luka's very similar to early stages of LeBron, really putting that Dallas Mavericks team on his back, saying, "Let's go, ride with me." But again, the same, you know, concern I had about Jimmy, I have about Luka. This is back-to-back game sevens, and now he's in the conference finals going against Golden State Warriors. What we've seen from Luka, not in every game, but in a couple games so far in the playoffs, is by the fourth quarter, getting a little gassed, right? I don't know if he can beat this Golden State team, but I'll let you start with it, Siavash. What's your prediction? Give us your breakdown.
Yeah, I haven't come up with a prediction yet. I'll be honest with you. If you put a gun to my head right now, I would go Golden State in 6. But here's why I am still not going with that, and I'm kind of thinking about it. If you look at the Warriors roster with the unfortunate injury of Gary Payton II, you look at that roster, and all I can think about is who is guarding Luka.
That's the beyond all.
You put Draymond on him, sure, that could be an option, but of course they're going to be running Dwight Powell, and he's going to keep trying to get to the inside, so that's going to be interesting. And anybody else on that roster, I would not be able to trust. On that other side, Luka is definitely not going to be guarding some of the guys that are running around, like Jordan Poole and Steph and Clay. He's going to be on somebody like Draymond, who he can just stand around and not do much with. With all that said, I'm gonna go with the Warriors in 7 as well. This is tough. I want to go with Luka, and I will believe in the hookah, but I think the Warriors, I want to see them in the finals, and I think their offense is going to be a little bit harder to guard than the Suns, where they were just hunting for mid-ranges, whereas the Warriors are going to be a lot of motion and moving to get a 3.
The biggest worry I have about the Warriors is just again their inconsistency of shooting. Now, yes, eventually it should get figured out. They're a team that's been there before. They know what it takes to get to the finals. So I'm going to take the experience over the youth. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. But just my concern with Dallas is the mileage put on Luka. The conditioning has definitely been a lot better this year. but it's still a concern. He gets kind of fatigued in a lot of fourth quarters, and he doesn't really have a consistent second star. Jalen Brunson's been the guy a couple times. Dinwiddie was the guy in Game 7. That came out of nowhere. But Luka will always be that guy. But you're right. Yeah, who guards Luka? And then it's kind of like maybe the Golden State Warriors just go in and prepare. Okay, Luka's gonna drop 30. We gotta accept that. Let's try to deal with everybody else around him. If we can deal with everybody else around him, then we'll be okay. But the shooting's got to be better from Golden State, point blank, period. Um, but again, I'm going to ride with the team from the West that I've had since the beginning, Golden State Warriors in 6. 7 could be possible. I have a feeling Golden State in 6. So it sounds like we're both on the same page for both conferences, Steve Ash, although I do see some hesitancy in some of your picks. But I wonder where Chris is going to go, because
Where do you think
he's
I'm
gone
going?
against
And
us.
who can we
He's gone
believe?
against us in the East a couple times now, and it hasn't worked out for him. However, he went against us in the West last round, and it did work out because Dallas is in the conference finals. Chris, what's your prediction for the Golden State Warriors and Dallas Mavericks series?
I'm still running with my boy.
Wow, this guy.
Doncic, brother. I'm still running with him. He hasn't disappointed yet. Yes, you're
Yeah.
saying there's a little bit of fatigue,
Yeah.
and he could definitely use a for sure 100% secondary score to help take away some of that scoring pressure. But I mean, like you said, we saw flashes in it. You had Dinwiddie drop 30. You had Brunson. Again, my big thing is like, who is gonna guard? Like we all said, who's gonna guard Luka? You put Draymond on Luka, Draymond's fouling out. 100%. Draymond's fouled out. He's gone. Guarantee it. Steph can't stick to him. You put a guy like Clay, like we heard in like the shows yesterday, due to his injury, like he's lost some of that lateral quickness.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna be able to keep up with Luka, I don't think. So
But also think on the opposite side, like someone's going to be chasing Steph. Yes, Steph is guardable, but someone's going to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off, chasing Steph. Steph is still Steph. I agree. I think the most dangerous player in the series is Luka for sure.
Steph is dangerous when Steph is on, but when Steph is shooting like 2 for 13,
sure,
3 for 10, it's like, okay, it's whatever. Like it's Steph. Okay, he's just gonna run around. I'm a little tired, but he's dropped 15 points. Whatever.
So you said Dallas. Now, how many games do you see this going?
I'm gonna say Dallas. I want to believe Dallas in 6, but I give Golden State too much credit, and I'm gonna say Dallas in 7 again.
I thought he was
back Game 7.
For a second there, I honestly thought, Sivash, I thought he was going to say Dallas in 5.
I know.
You're wild.
No, because you said I give Golden State too much credit, so I thought you were going to pull it back and be like 5 or 4. No, that would have been a great moment.
Right?
Not
Definitely
5.
a couple of a moment.
Not 5. Unless Steve Kerr just has a fucking meltdown and we see Clay and Steph shoot like just abysmal for the entire series, then maybe.
Now, Sivash, you mentioned Gary Payton II. Do we know when he's coming back? Is he coming back at all for the playoffs?
I don't think so. I think he's out for the playoffs from what it seems like.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. He would have been a great
that could
guy.
be something serious.
He would have been a great guy to stick on Luka.
I just gotta make sure Poole doesn't go ahead and blow out Luka's knee too.
Well,
don't do that.
Go ahead, Siavash, because it's like the John Morant injury was not on that.
I know.
No, and the way that Grizzlies try to throw Jordan Poole under the bus to get him suspended, it's just, come on, man. And then, like, they were talking about, like, because the injury was not caused by Jordan Poole, but then afterwards, Taylor Jenkins, he's like, well, from what I was told, that made it worse. And that aggregated. It's like, yeah, but why do you think the guy would do that? Like, it's literally, it's not an intentional move. Like anybody going, bro, I've been hit harder by Chris trying to go for a rebound. And I'm never gonna be like, hey Chris, like what the hell, bro? Like, no man, it's like, dude, it's
Nah,
basketball.
it's just because you're
Don't
low bodied,
do
bro. You
that.
need to hit
Don't
the
do
gym.
that.
You need to hit the gym. Out rebounding you
Alright.
is jumping over you isn't. I mean, that's not a hit. It's just you're little. That's all it is.
So
Wow.
next segment.
But can
Yeah, I mean, okay, so those were the the round 3, the conference finals predictions. Chris really going against the grain here. Kind of
always.
worked out for him in the past, but you know what? Let's while we're speaking about Chris, I want to give Chris a little bit of credit. Seabash, do you notice anything different about Chris's background?
Did he put up the picture?
I put it up.
He put it up.
Put it up
He put
yesterday.
it up.
Tobes
Only a
inspired
year
me.
later. No, it
Although
looks good though.
I'm kind of cheesed though, because like this is the first time it's been literally out of the packaging, and as soon as I open it, I'm like, oh, the corner's damaged. They hid the busted corner in the styrofoam.
Oh no!
Little
You should return it after a year.
After
Yeah, legit.
Well, I mean, Topes got what? You bought one and they sent you 3, so
Yeah.
it's can't really complain. It's like roulette.
Nice.
Okay. Okay, so tonight, by the time you're seeing this, it would have already happened, but tonight is the draft lottery for the NBA. Will be pretty interesting. None of us actually have a first round pick this year, so not really any, intrigue for us. However, one thing I do want to ask you guys, we've seen the Pelicans a couple years ago when they got Zion, they jumped up in the draft lottery. What team would you be most interested in seeing jump up into that top 4? Whether they're already in the top 4 or, they're just outside of it or they're one of the later seeds in the a lottery pick. Which team would you like to see jump up and get one of those top 5, top 4 seeds? Because I would say, a lot of people talk about Jabari Smith Jr., Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero from Duke. I really think it's like a 4 or 5 man kind of headed of the draft, similar just sort of to last year. Um, it's not like a leading draft like when Zion was drafted, or LaMelo Ball. What team would you like to see jump up into that upper echelon and win a future NBA All-Star?
Personally, I would want the Pacers to get up there.
Hmm.
I think the Pacers
Why?
definitely have a decent set of young guys set up for this. They got a guy like what's his name? Tyler. Sorry, I just messed up
Tyrese
his
Halliburton?
name. Halliburton. Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton. Definitely you would want to build around him and another young guy. So if they're able to jump up to the top 2 or top 3 picks, it will be pretty good for them. And of course, if they get into that position, they will be able to maybe move away from some guys like Malcolm Brogdon or Miles Turner, honestly.
So here's the thing that I find interesting about OKC and that I'll be interested to see about OKC. SGA said at the end of the season that they're going to be different next year and it'll be bigger next year. And he alluded to something happening. Obviously, he doesn't know what's going on, in the office, but he's alluding to something bigger and them being a bit more competitive. So I wouldn't be surprised. Now they have the Clippers pick, which I think will be like 13th or 14th. I wouldn't be surprised if they move one of those picks. I probably don't see them moving their own pick. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they move the Clippers pick to see and maybe get an actual competitive player in there because you have SGA, you have Lou Dort. Now it's time to start surrounding them with actual pieces because, as I said before, that's great that you have 18 million draft picks over the next 5 years. But the more draft picks you have, the younger the players you have, and the more young players you have, the less chance that they get to actually develop. If you have guys like Poku and Trey Mann and SGA and Lou Dort and all these other guys that nobody's ever heard of that were playing in the latter half of the season, sure, they're young talents, but they're not getting playing time during the regular season when actual competitive basketball is happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually trade some of those young pieces that they've started to develop and one of those picks for an actual, star or superstar level player. Who would I pick? I'd probably pick the Pelicans. They have the Lakers pick, which will probably be a pretty good pick, so I'm excited to see that. And obviously they've been competitive. We're in the play-in this year. Zion wasn't even there, so that'll be a team that I'm keeping my eye on. Very excited to see their future. But with that was this episode of the Lob It Up podcast. We broke down our predictions for the conference finals, talked about what just happened, the future of the Phoenix Suns. That will be very interesting to watch. And of course, as always, Chris is just going against the grain. I love it. I love it because you haven't been wrong. You've been pretty accurate on some of these, but we'll see how it turns out, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
And that's it, folks. That's another episode of the Lob It Up Podcast this week. We are your hosts, Tobias, Vash, and Chris. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
I'm going to use that one.